We all know this has been headline news all over the world, the uncertainty Britain facing right now as it exits the European Union, one of the continent's toughest tests in modern time. But today, it is one particular headline from one particular paper that is getting all of the attention. And it's probably for the wrong reasons. Take a look at this. It is the Daily Mail. It shows British Prime Minister Theresa May meeting Scotland's First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon. And this is the headline. Never mind the Brexit. Who won Legsit? Now, it has been widely condemned as sexist and moronic. There was a later edition of the front page printed with a change, the paper calling it a light-hearted verdict on the showdown. Place, of course, people are venting their views. Social media, of course. Former UK Labour leader Ed Miliband tweeting, the 1950s called and asked for their headline back with the hashtag everyday sexism. Journalist Emma Barnett writing, breaking news, 2 women have 4 legs between them, forget their brains, it's utterly immaterial. And someone's redesigned the front page as a joke with 4 leading British politicians wearing shorts. David Cameron, Jeremy Corbyn, Michael Gove and Boris Johnson. I cannot tell you what a stir this has caused here in the UK, so much so we have to talk about it. With me here in the studio is Harriet Hall, digital features editor with Stylist magazine, and in Manchester is Angela Epstein, who writes comment and opinion pieces for the Daily Mail. Harriet, I'm going to start with you. What did you think when you first saw this headline?
Well, I mean, it's just yet another example of utterly abhorrent sexism, and we see this all the time, but this is sort of right in your face, worse than we've seen in a long time. It's really reducing these women to their physical attributes. You know, these are the 2 most powerful women in British politics, and we're seeing them talking about their legs. You know, whether you call it light-hearted or not, it sends a really dangerous message. And I think, you know, on the other side, you also have the idea of sort of pitting women against each other. You know, who won Legsit? It's light-hearted if they want it to be, but it's also written by Sarah Vine, you know, a female journalist. So we're all talking about it. It's kind of catfights, women are sexual, you know, diminishing them, and it's just, we're so tired of it.
Angela, do you think the headline sends a dangerous message?
No, to be quite honest, I'm pig sick of the double standards that are surrounding this particular debate. Let me just look at it very quickly. First of all, we have a situation now where female leaders are at the forefront of the political agenda. So we can hardly argue that women are taking a kind of backward step on the world stage. Second of all, you have 2 leaders, both of whom willingly submitted to photo shoots, glossy photo shoots for Vogue. We also have a litany of male politicians over the years who have been criticised for the way they look. Jeremy Corbyn most recently was told to put a tie on by David Cameron in the Commons, Michael Foot, Ed Miliband. Where were the so-called feministas or the equalitarians shrieking about that? And finally, I would say very quickly, this idea about sister versus sister or women catfighting. If you took, for example, a look at my own social media feed, some of the really nasty, heinous, disgusting things that women have said because I've dared to share an opinion that isn't running parallel with theirs, that's opposing their view. I'm not allowed to have the dignity of that opinion. I've been called hideous names, so much for the sisterhood on that level as well.
What do you say to that, Harry, that argument there?
Well, I mean, you know, social media trolls are unacceptable and they don't represent feminism as far as I'm concerned. And I do think, you know, everyone has, you know, their own right to an opinion on this. But this is not a double standard. You know, Jeremy Corbyn being asked to wear a tie by David Cameron is not the same as reducing the PM and the First Minister of Scotland to their legs. It's just, it's not comparable. And, you know, the question of there being more women in politics now, there might be on the face of it, but there's only 8% of the world's leaders are women. And so actually the numbers are really low, and we can't forget that and we can't mistake that for, you know, success and equality. It's just not there yet.
I mean, Angela, one of the fundamental issues that people are complaining about today is the fact that you do have these 2 incredibly strong, powerful women who are deciding the fate of the United Kingdom. And yet the Daily Mail is choosing to focus on their physical attributes instead. And what does that say?
Well, first of all, I would say, by the way, I've been trolled by, amongst the trolls was a very high-powered columnist on a national newspaper. So it wasn't just some armchair militant in her back room not wanting to sort of share her views. So there's been high-level trolling, if you like. Second of all, I would say that the Daily Mail, which, by the way, is just won Newspaper of the Year for its highly, highly regarded journalism, has been a robust critic of Brexit, of the independence. It's offered fair and equal criticism criticism of the political agenda. If you turn to page 6 today, there is cogent analysis of the meeting between Theresa May and Nicola Sturgeon. This was a light-hearted front page. And let's remember that every day in our professional lives and our working lives, women in particular use dress as a tool to show that they are credible, they're professional, they're sleek, they're groomed. I haven't come onto this programme wearing an old biker's jacket and, you know, I've put some makeup on, not because,
Angela,
because I want to look the part.
It is not about how groomed they are that people are commenting on. The headline actually sets out a competition about who has the best legs, which is trying to normalise the kind of sexist behaviour that people have been trying to get rid of for years. Some of the other comments are sort of saying this takes us back to the 1950s. We just find this kind of behaviour unacceptable. And while the Mail may have other comment further on in the paper, this is the key headline. This was the top story in the paper today.
Also, I think referring to the Daily Mail as, you know, it's won this accolade, that's exactly why they should be careful. They've got this responsibility. They're representing a nation. You know, young women will see this and they'll think, I'm interested in politics. They'll look at it and they'll think, you know, hell no, I don't want to get involved in that. Women are constantly being reduced in this way. And just because, you know, Theresa May appeared in Vogue in a fashion shoot, that's not relevant here. It's not relevant here.
Both of them did. Look, I have a 12-year-old daughter, and I think people like Theresa May, Nicola Sturgeon, all the women on the global political stage who are now making great strides within their professional life are marvellous role models. And the remark we made earlier, and it's true, 8% of women in high political positions, it may be either because women don't want them, they want to stay at home with children, they don't want the pressure of the domestic versus working life that is just going to implode if they take on too much, or maybe in a meritocracy, those particular candidates were female that weren't good enough. For too long, we have derided the fact that because women don't necessarily always make great inroads into particular levels in politics, that it's because they are women. These women were both wearing shorter skirts, have got gorgeous legs. You can't fail but to see them, so why shouldn't we comment on them?